Hello YouTube! So today I'm going to be telling my labor and delivery story of how I had my first and only child. He's right here. Might be playing and making noise during the video. It's been a while since I've had my son. I had him on June 28th, 2017. I wanted to tell this story not only to tell the story but to also document it for myself. I've already started to forget some of the details, so I do want this for me to look back on and to be able to remember the details of the birth of my son. So my due date was June 26, 2017. At about 33 weeks pregnant, I was having an appointment and my doctor was measuring my belly and said I looked like I was ahead, so maybe I was 34 or 35 weeks pregnant. So I went in for an ultrasound and they told me basically everything was on track. I wasn't ahead of schedule and everything looked normal. At my next appointment, the same thing had happened, and again they said that he seemed big, but I went in for an ultrasound and they said everything seemed fine. He seemed like he was right on track. So after that, they just kind of went along with it. Nothing was wrong. June 26th came around and I had not gone into labor. I hadn't really had any contractions. I had Braxton Hicks, but they were not painful at all. They were just tightening of the stomach and no pain at all. So June 26th came. I was really discouraged. I had not been having any contractions. I was only 1 centimeter dilated, which I had been for about the past month. So I was at home. I kind of thought that my water was leaking. I wasn't 100% sure, but I called my hospital and the nurse said just come in and we'll check you just to make sure, because if your water does break they do need to get you into the hospital right away. So I went to the hospital and they took me into a room and had me go on the bed and they were gonna check my water and see if it was broken. So the doctor came in and was checking my water, and while she was checking my water the nurse was getting my vitals. The doctor actually had said that my water was fully intact, no holes or anything, and the nurse was taking my vitals and she took my blood pressure. She said that my blood pressure seemed really high, but it might have been because she was using too small of a cuff, so she went and got a bigger cuff and took my blood pressure again. Again, my blood pressure was extremely high, so the doctor came over and took it one more time. She said, your blood pressure is extremely high. I think you have preeclampsia. We're going to run some tests. So before I know it, the doctor's in there, there's a few nurses, there's a phlebotomist, and they are taking my blood, they're putting an IV in, they run the tests. Sure enough, I have preeclampsia, so they admit me. The doctor tells me from the get-go that if they cannot get my blood pressure down and controlled, if they cannot deliver the baby fast enough, I will have to get a C-section to deliver the baby quickly. So basically I get admitted, I get moved to a room. I am told that I am not allowed to get out of bed because of the preeclampsia. They didn't want me moving around, they didn't want me walking, they didn't want my blood pressure to go up any higher. So I was put into bed. I got a catheter right away. I got these sleeves put on my legs that kind of compress your legs. It's kind of like a massage and it helps so that you don't get any blood clots in your leg. This was at about 5 or 6 o'clock p.m. The doctor gave me a medication to help ripen my cervix overnight, and so that whole night I didn't sleep at all. I wasn't in labor. I just had that medication waiting for my cervix to ripen. So the next morning the doctor comes in and checks my cervix and I'm still at about a 1 centimeter. But they say they're going to start me on Pitocin. They're going to try and get things going. Meanwhile, this whole time I have not gotten out of bed. I'm not allowed to walk around to try and progress labor, not allowed to use any kind of like exercise ball to help with labor, nothing. I just have to lay in bed. So I started taking contractions. They weren't really that bad. They were slightly uncomfortable. I could definitely feel them. They were rhythmic, but they were really like every half hour apart. When the afternoon time came, the doctor decided to break my water. That was an interesting experience. It was like, it just felt like a pop and a big gush. Right after they broke my water, my fiance decided to go get something to eat with his grandparents, which I thought would be fine because I wasn't really having any kind of pain or anything. But right after he left, I started getting painful contractions because of my water being broken. They were getting a little more rhythmic, getting a little more closer together, and they were painful. So after a while of that, I asked for the epidural. There was a wait on the epidural. There was a lot of women giving birth that day that I was in the hospital, so I had to get the medication that goes in the IV. I do not remember what it's called, but basically it takes the edge off the contractions. You're not numb or anything, it just takes the edge off. It's just a painkiller. I was on the medication to take the edge off of the contractions, which made you feel kind of drunk. And then I was also on a medication to help lower my blood pressure and keep it under control. And that one also made me feel extremely weird. So some of this is kind of a blur to me. So, when they finally came in for the epidural, I did get the epidural. It wasn't bad at all. The contractions were way more painful. So I really didn't feel the epidural. It wasn't bad. They laid me back right away, and right away I was numb. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel anything, but it was amazing. I went to sleep. I hadn't slept since I'd been there. By this time, it was Tuesday night. I had come in Monday evening. So that night was basically just waiting for me to progress. By the time they gave me my epidural, I was maybe a 3 centimeters. So the night was going on, and what had ended up happening was my blood pressure started going back up extremely high. That and my son's heartbeat was going down, which can be dangerous. So they were giving me some oxygen, and it was controlling his heartbeat pretty well. And my blood pressure just wouldn't go back down, so they were getting very concerned. And then shortly after that, this was all throughout the night as well. I have holes in there. I don't really remember everything. And then my contractions started getting very intense. I could feel them even with my epidural. I could feel all of it. It was extremely painful, especially in my lower back. I remember just laying on the bed, laying on my side. I had to be pushed over onto my side because I had the epidural. But I was laying on my side. My best friend Dana was there with me. She was rubbing my back. I was just in agony. It was so painful. And they were like, "Oh, you're probably getting ready to push. You're progressing probably. That's why you're in so much pain. We're going to check you." They checked me, and I was only at 5 to 6 centimeters. Now, my contractions were extremely painful, so painful. I could feel them with the epidural. At that point, I should have been ready to push, but I was not. I was only about halfway there. Also, my blood pressure just kept going up. My son's heartbeat was again going down, which was not good. So shortly after that, the doctor came in and told me that they were going to have to perform a cesarean or a C-section. I was already kind of devastated from the beginning just because I couldn't have a natural labor. Not natural, I guess. It just wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be able to walk around and, do all that fun stuff you get to do while you're in labor, and I couldn't. So when they told me I had to have a cesarean, I just started bawling. I was so upset. I was scared. I was scared that, honestly, I was scared I was going to die. I was obviously being dramatic, but in my head, I never thought I would need a C-section. I always thought, I'm going to have a regular delivery. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to go great. And I never thought I would have to have a C-section. So they got everything ready very quickly. I did need to go into the C-section very quickly because of my blood pressure and his heart rate. They prepped the OR, they prepped me, and they wheeled me in, and I was extremely scared. When I had the C-section, basically they had a big sheet in front of me so I couldn't see anything. And then, they just performed the surgery. I could feel a lot of pressure towards the end. It did feel painful. I think that's more when they were taking out my son and sewing me up. So the C-section was not too bad. After my C-section, they took me back to my room, and I was extremely groggy. I could not keep my eyes open. They wanted me to breastfeed my son, which I tried, but it was very hard to. I was very, 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 very tired because I had hardly gotten any sleep. I had gone through a very long labor and then gone through a major surgery. So I slept a lot. I still was not allowed to get out of bed. I don't think I was able to get out of bed till the next day. So I had him at 6:26 in the morning on June 28th. And the next day, I was able to get out of bed and take a shower. The pain after my C-section was very painful. My whole stomach just hurt very bad. It hurt very bad to walk, it hurt very bad to get up, to move, to shower, to do anything. It was extremely difficult, but I did get through it. That's the story of how I had my son, my labor and delivery story. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.